In today's Mystery Box Challenge, I will be using items sent to me from Illinois. I've traded items with Kathy Goers from Waste Not Upcycled, and I am so excited to show you guys what she sent me and what I made. Back in the fall, I stumbled across Kathy's channel and was immediately surprised and excited to find another content creator, crafter, who is also an educator. That was actually one of the main reasons that I decided to click on her video, and I'm so happy I did. She is incredible. Kathy creates these amazing crayons out of old crayons that she has repurposed. And if you want to check out her Etsy store, I highly recommend it. There are so many amazing things she creates. Let's see what she sent me today. I'm not really sure what you call it, but this looks like it's probably something to hold books, right? Like to keep them like on a shelf, almost like bookends, but they're connected. And I liked that it kind of was like resizable. I will say that is something I ended up eliminating from this project, but I was very intrigued by it when I got it. So I'm going to start out by just cleaning this and really starting to think about what I want to do with this piece. I know I wanted to make it more neutral, and I wanted to see if there was a way to make it kind of fit into home decor anywhere in the house, not just necessarily maybe in a little girl's room. I am going to clean this up, and then we are going to remove the hinges so that we can start painting. I also removed those little felt pieces on the bottom of this, and I like using simple green to clean not only my thrift flips but also my house. It has a good smell, and I don't know, it just works really well. So I use it all over my house, and I will leave a link in the description box if this is something you want to try. It definitely makes it easier to have one product that you can use for multiple things. Another thing I wanted to do before I started painting was to look for some castings to embellish the sides of this, or I guess the bookends. I thought about different kinds of spring things, and what I ended up landing on is what sells for me the most and the best is birds. So we are going to put some bird castings onto this piece. I'm going to use my Titebond Quick and Thick, and I'm going to adhere the larger bird onto one of the two bookends and then two smaller ones going in opposite directions on the other side. I will kind of tape these down. I don't think I use a clamp for this. I think I ended up just taping them, and then I'm going to let it sit overnight, and then when we come back we'll be able to start painting. I am using Chateau by Fusion to paint the entire bookends and the base. I want it all the same color. I will be embellishing it with something else afterwards, but I wanted to start out by giving it two, and I think I ended up with 3 coats of Chateau onto the entire bookend shelf. One thing I find so challenging is trying to get through these projects. I'm super excited to do them, but each step in the process, there is a wait, right? You have to wait for the paint to dry. You have to wait for the glue to dry, and it makes it so difficult for me. That's why I end up starting projects that I never finish, because then something else inspires me. So I've been trying to get better about finishing up pieces that I start. It just leaves a lot of waiting time in between. What you will see today is two pretty, I guess, not as much this one as the next project, that are much more in depth, but they took me a lot longer just because of every step in between where I had to wait. And I'm not good at waiting. I also painted the base in the Chateau, and as I got to the second coat, I started to realize that the kind of sliding technique that this has so that it can expand and contract, I felt as though with the paint would end up becoming sticky and not work as well. So rather than trying to figure that out in any way, I decided to just adhere it together and just make it a shorter shelf overall. I'm using some wood filler to bring those two pieces together. There is some Titebond Quick and Thick that I glued on the insides where the little slides are, as well as on either side of this piece. And now the wood filler is just going to help me make it smooth so that when I paint over it, it looks a little bit more even across that base. I painted the front, back, and sides of the base of the shelf in the Chateau by Fusion. let it dry, and now I'm going to be using some dark wax by DIY to embellish around the castings and then also all around the entire shelf. As you can see, I do have to switch from that makeup brush to a small artist brush to get into the details right around where that casting is. Now I'll be using some permanent ink. This is Stays On ink in the color Timber, and I will be using this IOD stamp set that looks like bark. I can never remember the name of it. I am so sorry. I will leave it in the description box below. And I'll be stamping it onto the base of this shelf and then on the inside of the two bookends, not on the part that has the birds on it, just on the inside. I just wanted it to look a little bit more cohesive on the inside, even though I know there's a good chance this will be covered. It's just for a little added detail. It's not meant to be the statement part of this piece. Once that is done and dry, as you can see, I'm making sure it's dry with my microfiber cloth. I'm going to come back with that dark wax, and I am going to dark wax over all of that detail. Let's do a little test. Antique gold, European gold, Grecian gold, gold leaf. I decided on European gold for the hardware that I was putting back on this piece. I also switched from that little mini drill that I have to just a tiny screwdriver to screw back in those tiny screws. I do like this little screwdriver because it does have that magnetic tip on there, which is really helpful when you have super duper tiny screws like this piece had. Let me introduce you to the most challenging item I have ever received in a mystery box. I was actually really excited about this. I still am. I loved this piece. I was so intrigued by it. I'm assuming it was maybe a light cover or some sort of fixture. You guys send me stuff and I have no idea because I am not like a home decor queen. I'm not really, I'm not into decorating that much. I'm learning to be, but I really wanted to turn this into a bowl of some kind. So I found this other piece in my stash that I guess could be used. I think it came in a set that could make like a tiered tray. I originally wanted to try to have it sit in to that little tray, but it was not going to fit right or glue very well. So I ended up using my B7000 just to get that really tiny little bit of glue on there and adhering it kind of upside down onto what will be my bowl. I'm just checking real quick to make sure it is centered as best it can be, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry for about 24 hours. Okay, my bowl is now ready for the next step. Here's what I realized. I need something to fill that space on the inside. So I grabbed any extra clay that I still had and was open, and I am just going to work to fill in that hole. This is Das wood clay, and the other one is creative paper clay. So I really didn't care what kind of clay I was using. I really just needed something to fill in that very large hole, and you'll see it takes quite a bit for me to fill it in. Let that dry overnight, and as you can see, some of the clay kind of shrunk. It was still adhered together, which is fine, but I wanted to find a little bit more of a solid, kind of even transition from the base of this bowl and the clay that was on the inside. So I brought out my wood filler. This is Gorilla Wood filler, and I'm going to be covering it and filling in those gaps, but also going around the entire section that I had filled with clay just to kind of see if I could make it. It's not going to be super smooth because I did try to go in with a sander and it's almost impossible with the shape of this bowl, but I just wanted something that was a little bit more cohesive before I went on to painting. Here is our bowl. It has dried overnight once again, and now I'm going to be able to come back in. I did try to sand it with a power sander, I guess like an electric one, and then I tried to do it with that finger sander. Did as much as I could to get it smooth, but after that, I kind of just said, you know what, it's okay. It's gonna have some bumps and ridges in it, and I'm okay with that because it's the base of the bowl. Who's really gonna see it that much? I wanted to recreate another project that had that lighter yellow like I used in the piece last week that had the tiny sample that was from the maker's box. I don't have any more of that yellow, but I really wanted to try to recreate it. So I am mixing together Vintique's Farmhouse, which is kind of an off-white, with Prairie Sunset, which is a fusion color. So the Vintique's is a chalk paint, which has to be sealed. The Fusion is an all-in-one paint. My hope is that with this, I'm still going to end up sealing it anyway because I do plan on using stamps and transfers. But I figured this will at least give it a little bit more of the adhesion that a chalk paint would give and a little bit more of that all-in-one finish mixed together. I don't know. It also was just two colors I wanted to try to use up that was in my stash, so it worked for that reason too. For the inside of this bowl, I am going to be using Newell by Fusion. And I'm also using a chip brush on the inside to paint the Newell on. I typically will not use chip brushes with all-in-one paints, and especially not with Fusion, because it will give a lot more of the brush strokes as it dries down. But I did it because I knew that I had to get into some of those little details, so I was going to have to kind of stipple on. And with that, I decided that it was okay to have a lot more texture on the inside of this bowl because it adds the effect that that wood filler and all of the texture on the bottom had anyway. One thing I would have done differently when working on this project is probably spray sealing the piece before painting. I really thought that there was going to be enough adhesion with what I had used, the paint that I had used, but I will tell you every time I touched a part of the bowl, if it was just the littlest bit damp, I ended up, smudging the paint or chipping the paint, and I had to go back and fix it. So that is definitely a lesson learned. Next time I will just go ahead and do the Rust-Oleum Clear Matte Spray before I even get started because that does help it dry faster and more evenly. I decided to stick with a chip brush for the outside of the bowl as well when I came back in to paint the second and third coats of that yellow. All right, now our bowl is dry. As you can see, you can still see the texture in here from the wood filler, but I'm not as concerned about that. What I am working towards now is what I'm going to do around the sides. The inside, I think I'm going to leave as is. The outside, I have this one spot that continues to bleed through here. So I definitely want to do something to mask that because I don't know if that's ever going to be resolved by continuously painting it. And then I really wanted to use these stamps. This is what the ephemeral type stamp, and have them go all over the piece. I love this stamp, and I love the effect of like the text mixed with florals and other types of transfers and other things. But I am on a time crunch. So I think what I'm going to do is start with doing some of these transfers first, and then with whatever time I have left, if I feel that we can work in some of the stamps from this set, I will work them in. All right. I decided to use the white and the pink florals from this transfer set, and I'm going to be positioning them going around the piece, but not kind of in bunches. I wanted them isolated in sections. I wanted to leave space for some of those stamps. I will let you know that I did not get a lot of this on camera because it was very hard to get a good camera angle and try to rub on this transfer at the same time. It was not an easy task, so we're just going to skip forward so we can look at the next step. I did use IOD Stone Gray for the stamps. Here is a look at what we have so far. So what I feel like still needs to be done is some antiquing glaze or something around this. And then I'm not loving how this looks here at the bottom. I'm thinking it probably needs like a trimmings mold or something like that. Let me know in the comments what you think. Honestly, I don't feel like I'm going to be able to finish this before I have to post this video. Oh, this was such a tough project, but I loved it. I'm loving how it's turning out. I don't want to rush it because I'm scared I'm going to mess up. So this is how it is so far. I'm probably going to get some pictures of it for you, but I definitely don't want to rush the end because I don't know, I want it to be perfect. So this is what we got so far. I went back and forth about it and then decided to just message Kathy and ask her if we could push back our premiere date by a day so that I could finish up this project. I really wanted to finish it and I really wanted to be able to show you guys a real finished project. A huge thank you to Kathy for letting me have another day so that I could actually finish this project. I brought the bowl back down and I got back to work. I am using the Faux Bois mold and I'm going to be casting several of the strip that you see in the middle that has like some sprigs and some berries in it so that I can wrap it around the base of my bowl. I am using DOS air dry clay for this part of the project. I believe it took 3 full castings and then 1 partial casting. And what I did was I actually took the top and the bottom of one of the castings to create the last part so that it would evenly kind of overlap or it would connect to the other pieces easily the way these other pieces are. I'm using Titebond Quick and Thick and I am gluing on these castings while they are still pliable. I have not let them dry at all yet. I am painting my castings in Antique Gold, which is a metallic all-in-one fusion paint. I am going to paint the entire base, like the underside that you actually don't see. I did not get between the base of the bowl and the bowl. I used some gold leaf rub and buff to rim on the rim of the bowl just to kind of help it look a little bit more finished and clean. And then brushed on some Spanish copper on the base where those castings were to bring out some of those details. When I look back, I can see you're hiding, waiting for a moment to step in. And I'll never understand how you saw it coming. Oh, but I will love you for it all. Yeah. A huge thank you to Kathy for this amazing stash switch. Don't forget to head over to her channel, Waste Not Upcycled, so you can watch her video and see the things that I sent her and what she did with that stuff. A link to her channel as well as her Etsy shop is available in the description box below. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I'll see you soon.